What's going on, Port fans? Welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be previewing round 7. It's Port Adelaide versus St Kilda for this week's ANZAC round game on Friday night at the Adelaide Oval. It's going to be an absolute beauty, and one where both sides will be looking to bounce back after a couple of pretty big losses for each side. St Kilda losing to the Dogs by 10 goals last week on Thursday night, and then on Saturday last week, Port Adelaide lost by 42 points to Collingwood. So a game where both teams will want to bounce back, especially Port Adelaide, who will be coming back home and playing against the Saints in front of the faithful in a special round. Obviously, it's ANZAC round, so we're celebrating the ANZACs and paying our respects for those who lost their lives and represented our country on the battlefield. So, a special game, this one. I'm a little bit disappointed that I won't be attending because I've got a wedding. So, yeah, hopefully everyone can cheer loud for me because yeah, it's probably my favourite round of the year in terms of, paying homage and also celebration. The crowd's always got a bit of extra energy, and obviously you combine that with the round itself. You've got Collingwood, Essendon, the newly addition of Richmond and Melbourne on Wednesday nights for the day before, and yeah, it's always a good round of footy to celebrate. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing how we go though against the Saints, and it's a crucial game, a must-win game for both sides, and obviously for us, for Port Adelaide, it's a must-win. So let's preview it and have a look and see how this one's going to pan out. I can't believe we're already at round 7, which is fascinating for me because it's just flying by. And after last week, obviously many of you would have seen, it felt like a real big loss last week in terms of a kick to the gut in a way, and one that you don't really want to have this early in the season because you lose a lot of confidence and you're like, well, in the last 18 rounds of the year, what are you really going to find? And we've seen momentum swings and changes. Carlton did it, obviously, and GWS as well. They found something and they went, pretty much well deep into finals last year. So for Port, I think coming up against the St Kilda side, which are quite fast and can transition really well, but also really defensive, proves to be a tough task. We saw this similar game to what Fremantle put up a couple of weeks ago. We managed to break through that barrier, but we know our side really struggles in those defensive terms, and when the game's played on those terms, it becomes quite a messy sort of affair. And Port Adelaide aren't really good at that messy sort of affair kind of game because they can't dictate it, they can't keep the ball inside 50, and it becomes a really, who can get the ball first. And I think our contested game in particular, we haven't won on many games, based on clearances. I think there's 2 games this year we've won clearances, and that was, I think, against Richmond and also against Essendon. The rest have been pretty far-fetched, and I heard a stat the other day as well that it's been only 9 times this year that Jason Horne-Francis, Connor Rozee and Zach Butters have been at the same centre bounce. And Ken favours Drew and favours Ollie Wines, even though Ollie was... This is really what's got me baffled, is we were promised one of the great seasons from Ollie Wines, and still I'm not seeing that, and that's probably not on him. I think that's on the midfield and the way the rotations have worked. I've always been critical on the rotations and exactly how we go, and I know rotation-wise we send Horne-Francis forward, which is great, but for me it's just always been a weird mix, and we don't have the 3 stars in there, and you can always start either Wines or Drew off, and while Drew has probably been arguably our best player this year in terms of form and consistency, he's not a damaging player like those other 3 that can be, and Wines as well is built different and he can tackle well. And if you need a game where someone stands up and just has a moment where they go, stuff it, I'm going to take this ball, just put it forward and hope for the best, Ollie Wines plays that game. We don't have to be too articulate with how we play in those in those clearances and inside the centre, because it's chaos footy. Chaos footy wins games of footy. We've seen that many a times, and I don't understand why we don't do that. So it's a little bit of a baffling thing, but I think that's one of the key focuses this week is the midfield and how they stand up. And St Kilda have a good midfield. They have Steele, and I think they're going to debut Paddy Dow this week as well. Obviously Seb Ross has had a good season. You got the touch and class of Wanganeen Malira down back, and Riley Bonner comes back for his first game against Port, and Sinclair as well has been really, really good, and Windhager. They've got countless amount of players that are a rotation that can go through that midfield, they've got quite a good depth, and I think they can match it with us. And I'm a little bit interested to see how it all pans out in terms of key matchups around the ground. I know that, and I'll get to selection in a second, but bringing back Dixon's going to be huge. I'm glad Horne-Francis isn't injured. It's just cramp. I think Lachie Jones may get up, but I wouldn't personally risk it. We've always talked about risk first, risk second in our team early on in the season. I think having a week off is definitely the case there for him. So, it's going to be baffling to see how it all works out and what we do with Sweet and everything like that. And there's going to be interesting, especially against Rowan Marshall, solo versus Marshall, two players that can move around the ground. And it's going to be an interesting battle, this one. Not a Josh battle, just an interesting battle. Selection-wise, may as well get straight into it. Now we have a few players on count that may actually come back into the side. I think Dixon's guaranteed. You have to play him. So Sweet will come out for that. Lachie Jones, does he come into the side? I come out of the side, sorry, I'm not sure. Boak seems to be pretty confident to get up, which I think we need. I mentioned it in my review that leadership is lacking. I think having Dixon and Boak around the ball or just on the in their presence, their presence in itself is enough to get the players going a little bit more. So I would be definitely playing Boak, whether it's a sub or not, doesn't matter. Just have him and his presence around the club and around the ground will be crucial. Lachie Jones can come out, and I think Williams may get a go as well. He was very, very good last week. Maybe Francis Evans comes back in. I'm not sure on a few things. There's always one or two selection changes that we don't see coming, and I know I'm recording this on a Tuesday, so there's still plenty to play out for the rest of the week, but I definitely sense that it's going to be something that we go, right, well, this is what's going to happen, and we just need to play all guns blazing. I mentioned our next 4 games, we need to find a bit of touch before we get into the bye, and I can't believe we're already talking about the bye, but yeah. In such a crucial game, and with the matchups that will play out against St Kilda, I think having at least Boak and Dixon come back in, for me, is what we need. We need a bit of seniority, a bit of class. So my tip for this game, I'm tipping Port. I'll tip us by 16. Won't be a big blowout or anything like that. We may even lose. Who knows? I'm holding and reserving judgment for this week, as you do when it comes out of a big loss like we had last week. I think the way St Kilda play, they can be quite damaging, especially their small forwards. Higgins is one to watch for sure. I think Butler has got a bit of damage about him. And, they've got those mid-tier players that just stand up and play their role. And I mentioned Battle before. So, they've got those players that can stand up, and Wilkie leads them from the back. So, and I think Max King's going to come back in as well, which just makes it all worthwhile. And the last time I think we played St Kilda at the Adelaide Oval was 2021. And we won by 6 or 7 goals, I think. They obviously bet us in COVID in 2020. So, it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. I'm very much excited to play a team that is also under the pump and see how much they respond. Because if they respond and they respond well, I want to see if we can match that and actually respond better. So, game of cat and mouse this one. I'm looking forward to it though, in a special round that is ANZAC round as well. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new for plenty more Port Adelaide and AFL content to come your way. Thank you very much for watching. Check out the glass table that came out last week. Competition running as well. If you're a Brisbane Lion or a Gold Coast Suns fan, got 2 tickets to give away as well. So comment your favourite Gold Coast or Brisbane Lions player on those glass table posts, and you'll be able to enter the draw and get a chance to win. Again, thank you very much for watching. My name's Anthony, and as always, can't pair.